The Minister of State for Labour and Employment has appealed to organized labour to be considerate and patriotic in their demands in negotiations for a new national minimum wage. In a statement, Nkiru Onyejocha said the federal government has been consistent in taking steps to secure a fair and realistic wage for Nigerian workers. While on Tuesday, the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress rejected the government's proposed 60,000 naira minimum wage. Earlier this month, the labour unions rejected a proposal for a minimum wage of 48,000 naira, while the labour unions have now shifted to a new minimum wage of 494,000 naira. Well, joining us now is the president of the Trade Union Congress, Festus Osifo. Thank you very much for obliging us.
Thank you,
yes.
Good evening to you. Good evening, Sulai.
Maybe we should even start on an optimistic note and say happy, unbroken 25 years of democracy. And what have you. Yes, you take a deep breath, and understandably so. So here we are. Now, help us understand what exactly organized labor is fighting for. Are you fighting for minimum wage, which is the barest minimum that any Nigerian worker, both in the public and private sector, can earn as wages? Or are you fighting for living wage? Which exactly is it?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. Good evening, viewers. Yes, the overall concept of minimum wage is what is that wage that an average worker can live on, or the minimum wage a worker can live on. So they are really pari passu. You can't really distinguish them, because why do you pay wages? You pay wages for people to be able to live. You pay wages for people to be able to transport themselves to offices. You pay wages for people to be able to eat, pay rent, buy clothing, the basic necessity of life. So that is the reason why you pay a wage. So when you say minimum wage, people earn that minimum wage. Those people need to fend for themselves. So you cannot clearly distinguish between a minimum wage and a living wage. And perhaps, I think the president understood this. That was why, in his inaugural speech, that was why, in all the broadcasts he has made to the country, he said he's committed to putting in place a living wage. Because he understands that a minimum wage should also be a wage that people will live on. So you can't clearly distinguish between them 100%.
And the Minister of Labour is appealing, asking organized labor to be patriotic and, in our words, considerate. And that is why some Nigerians are asking. Now, I put this again in another way, still going with Ngosi's question. What would mean a minimum? What would be the basis, the basic minimum for a Nigerian worker? Because talking about being a considerate and patriotic Nigerian in your demand, talking about organized labor, off the top of your head, let's start looking at the numbers.
Okay, thank you, Sulai. First, in the conversations we have had, we today, first of all, we are 1 year into this government, right? Okay, look at all the fundamentals. All we are hearing is effort and effort and effort. Sulai, you send your child to school. At the end of the term, you are going to ask the child, bring your result. At those days, they will ask us, where is your report card? So it's that report card that you are going to look at. When you look at the report card and you see the entire thing, F, and your child is telling you that I've been reading, I've been putting in effort, what are you going to say? You say, no, that's your effort. You are not channeling that effort to the right direction. That is where we are today. That's why, if you look at the numbers the inflation numbers, look at where we were as at April 2023, and look at where we are today. You could see it's going down south. You look at the interest rate, where are we today? You look at specifically food inflation, that was about 24%, but now is over 40%. You look at all the indices, look at the indicators, where are we today? Look at the exchange rate, officially 450. Today now is about 1,500. So we are going down south. So now, when they proposed that 60%, what we told them is that it is not about the volume, but it's about the value. So if today, if our inflations were right, if the exchange rate was somewhere around 700 naira to a dollar, a lot of things could have slowed down. If those were the conditions that we are negotiating under, it could have been different. Let's look at 60,000 naira that they have offered. 60,000 naira today is equivalent to about $40. Go and check how many substantive countries in Africa is paying $40,000 to their workers. Angola today,
40,000.
Sorry, $40,000. $40 yes. to their workers. If you look at Angola, they just moved their minimum wage to about 120, and Angola is not even the best in Africa. You have a lot of other countries that are doing over $200 to $300. The reason we are using dollars is because if I want to compare what we earn in Nigeria to what they earn in Angola, maybe they say 100,000 kwanza. There must be a conversion rate with which you can compare across board. So what we said was that what was the value of the minimum wage when it was 18,000 naira? What was the value of the minimum wage when it was 30,000 naira? Those are the things that should be looked at. So 60,000 naira for us, when you look at the challenges we are facing today, and when you look at the value of that money, we are far away.
Well, you're saying that you're not considering volume but value, but yes. It looks like your figure looks more like volume than value. And have you, as organized labor, really sat down to consider what the implications could be, the spiraling effect, the knock-on effect that this 494,000 naira could have on the economy as a whole?
Yes, thank you so much. The reason why I'm saying value and not volume is because if 10,000 naira has value, we will collect 10,000 naira. So today, what will make sense is not 60,000 naira. So the reality today is that what will now bring that value is when the volume is high. But if the value was there, even with 18,000 naira, if 18,000 naira today could buy what 18,000 naira was buying in 2011, we would not be where we are today. Let me give you a simple analysis. A professor in university in 2009 was earning about 400,000 naira. That 400,000 naira, when you convert it with the exchange rate as at then, it was about $2,700. So that professor that was earning $700 could do a lot of things. Could buy flight tickets and go and do research in London and come back. It was competitive when you look at the Africa, even West Africa sub-region. But today, that 400,000 naira is now that was equivalent to 2,700 naira is now less than $300. Yeah. So that is the challenge. So for you to now reinstate that professor to where what he was earning $2,700 as at 2009, that means you need to now bring more volume of naira. And that volume is reflected in everything. Let me give you an instance. Our national budget today is about 27 trillion naira, right? Yeah. That was 7 trillion naira. By the time you convert it, it's about $30 billion. It has been $30 billion for years. But because the naira has devalued, you now have more naira. So the government think they have more money. No.
So don't you think there'll be more inflation if you go ahead with this figure that you're coming up with? Won't it lead to further inflation?
We already have that inflation with us. And this is what we tell government. Today, the allocation from FAC, there was a time in about a year and 6 months ago, FAC, they were sharing about 500 billion naira, right? But today, they are sharing upward of 1.2 trillion naira, right? Which, if you look at it, is doubled, and at times is even much more than doubled.
Let me throw
so
this
that
in
money,
quickly,
sorry, Asulai, that money is already in the economy. Right? It's already in the economy. So if you don't give it to workers, you will use it to buy cars, you will use it to buy laptop, and you have reflected that increment in everything. The cost of the Prado they bought in National Assembly a year ago, that cost of Prado, when the exchange rate was a bit lower, that cost of Prado will be divided by 3.
So
but today, it has gone up. So you have reflected it everywhere outside the worker's salary.
So are you saying, well, with your arithmetic, what you've done, your analysis by the TUC specifically, Nigeria as a country is capable of upping the national minimum wage to close 300,000 naira? I'm not even talking about the 400,000.
I know. Our point is this. There was the value of what 18,000 naira could buy when you brought 18,000 naira as a minimum wage. There was a value of what 30,000 naira could buy when you brought it. So we must sit down and look at what that value is. Then once we sit down and determine what that value is, that should be the neighborhood everybody should be thinking about. 60,000 naira is not just it, it's $40. Meanwhile, 18,000 naira was $125 as at then. Then 30,000 naira was somewhere around $90 to $100 as at then. So that is the direction we are going. And remember, the reason we do give figures, I said it here the last time when we said 615. What I said on that particular day was that we give figures, we put headroom so that we'll have room to negotiate. So we are not fixated that it must be 494.
But the 60,000 is not even close to the figure that you have in mind.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I'd like to thank you for your time, for all us being here, and the deadline for the government is still 31st of May.
31st of May, correct.
Festus Osifo, TUC President, many thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir.